Hi, my name is Dr. Daniel Fox, licensed psychologist in the state of Texas, expert in the area of personality disorder. And in this video, we're going to talk about BPD and boredom and emptiness. And these are a lot of issues that many individuals along the borderline spectrum with BPD and BPD traits often experience. And many of my clients often report experiencing boredom that is intertwined with sadness, depression, and most of all, emptiness. I've talked about something called complex BPD, which is it is a book and a concept that I'm putting together to help the mental health community have a greater understanding that BPD is not just BPD, that there are other components that drive BPD. And a lot of times this boredom and emptiness can be this core content, and that is what we're going to talk about in this video. Okay, so we're going to sort this out, and I'm going to give you some tips on how to lessen and control it and to deal with that boredom. Okay, so if you enjoy the video, please like, share, and subscribe, and let's get into it. First things first, what is boredom? Well, it is a fleeting state that results from monotonous tasks or limited external stimulation. Now there's nothing going on, no one is calling you, you're not texting, you're not Skyping, you're not FaceTiming, you're just in this situation, it's monotonous, and there's no external stimuli. So we identify or call that bored. Okay? What about emptiness? Emptiness is you have this sense of no meaning, the sense of lack of purpose or substance, and it's a feeling of being hollow. And you feel like no matter what you do or how much you do in order to fill that emptiness, you'll never fill up. So it becomes cyclical, becomes a pattern of emptiness. Now, boredom initially and very early on was part of the criteria to identify BPD. So a little fun fact there, right? And it was emptiness or boredom specifically, that's what they would say, the emptiness or boredom, right? Because there is a degree of connection, but the boredom part was removed, leaving only emptiness. Okay? And this was done because it wasn't discriminating enough. It wasn't providing enough clinical utility in order to separate it out. And I don't want to go too far down this rabbit hole because I know we're going to talk clinically about it and how if you experience this, how it can help you. But it's important to recognize that sense of emptiness and boredom in particular, was a part of other disorders, particularly ADHD, impulse control disorders, and that just names a few, and depression as well. So boredom was this component in a lot of other disorders. But we know that most BPD is complex BPD. So to know that boredom is related to emptiness, and emptiness is more specific to borderline personality disorder, then we know that boredom can add to emptiness, which is a part of BPD. Okay? I'm not trying to confuse you. So all we're saying is boredom to emptiness, right, can be a component of BPD. Okay? And part of that, because boredom is related to these other components, ADHD, depression, impulse control disorders, and others, that we know that increases the probability of having what's called complex BPD, which is that you don't just have BPD alone, you have other comorbid conditions as well. All right, well, let's get into the clinical stuff. Okay. For those with BPD, emptiness has been found to be closely related to feeling hopeless, lonely, useless, worthless, and isolated, and it's also a robust predictor, a pretty strong predictor of depression and suicidal ideation. So it's really important that if you have the sense of emptiness, and that is one of your core contents, that you are aware of it and that you recognize that increases the probability for depressive symptoms and depression, major depressive episode, and suicidal ideation. It's really important. Okay, I'll put the number here for a hotline in the US. I did a video on suicide prevention. I'll put that link here. In the comments of this video, I will add a link that will take you to suicide prevention hotlines around the world. And if you know of others that maybe aren't included on that list, please put them in the comments as well. That would be great to help everybody. Going back to emptiness. Now, emptiness does not equal boredom, and boredom can be its own construct. Many clients that I work with report boredom with life, others, and themselves, right? And I think that it can be a part of emptiness that drives impulsivity, that certainly adds to or drives the depressive symptoms, that adds to or drives that unstable sense of self-concept. Who are you? How do you see your life? How do you see your goals? And a component of anxiety as well. Now, recognizing that tendency for emptiness and boredom can help you determine if this is part of your core content. And that is important, as this is often a component of many of my clients, that sense of emptiness. And no matter what I do, I don't feel whole. No matter what I do, I don't feel fulfilled. No matter whom I'm with, eventually that emptiness comes back up. Because initially, in the relationship cycle, for a lot of my clients, initially they feel very full because it's external. It's external with that other individual. I'm putting all my hopes and all my dreams and all my aspirations in that person. It's so exciting, right? Because it's the honeymoon phase. And the honeymoon phase is really fun and it's really interesting and all of this and all of this and all of this. But what happens is that emptiness, we can say that it lies dormant for a period of time. Once that honeymoon phase is over and you hit that stability phase of the relationship, the emptiness starts to creep out, which adds to that degree of boredom. And you're like, well, this relationship is boring. And if it's boring, that must mean that I'm not doing something well enough, or I'm not providing enough for my significant other. So that's where that emptiness then starts to creep its head, and you're like, see, I feel empty, so it must be with that person because the expectation is external. So then I do something impulsive or destructive to end the relationship, or to hurt myself, or to do something like that, which then puts you back on that BPD, maladaptive pattern cycle, that I've talked about so much in my other videos. So going forward, let's talk about how to manage or defeat boredom. Because if boredom feeds emptiness, can we lessen the intensity of the emptiness by managing the boredom? I think we can. So let's talk about it. One of the things that adds to boredom is procrastination. A lot of my clients, not just those with borderline personality disorder or BPD traits, but those engage in procrastination. They put it off. And I try to encourage them to, if you put 1 off, 2 off, 3 off, 4 off, 5 off, different things that you have to do, then it builds up. Then they say, well, I feel overwhelmed with all these things that I have to do. True. But if you did them as they arose, then you wouldn't get the sense of overwhelm. I'm not saying that we all don't get hit with 50 different things at a time. We do, and we all know that. But if we can parse them out, that makes it easier to manage, and it keeps you busy. And if you're busy, how can you be bored? They're not going to be great tasks all the time. They're not going to be interesting things all the time, but things you have to do, right? How can you make those things fun? And what you want to do is you want to identify some specific goals and learn about yourself. Okay? Now, I do have a video on self-image. I'll put the link here. But what's interesting, you want to set what are called SMART goals. SMART goals are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound, time-based. Okay? And these are good goals because you're identifying those goals, you're working with those goals, you're achieving those goals, so you're active, you're doing things. Okay? Also, boredom, perspective. Okay? Now, try and see life's tasks, others, and your world in a frame that is about learning and growing. Ask yourself, if you're engaging in a situation, you meet somebody new, what can I learn from this person? What can I learn from this experience? And even boring situations. I've been in boring situations where I've been like, well, what can I get out of this interaction? Even though it's boring, what can I get out of this interaction? Okay. So also you want to avoid that BPD lens. It's going to tell you that everything is against you, that everything is gray and dreary, and pulling you towards that boredom and that sense of depression, where once you get into that depressive episode, it's really, really hard to see the positives, to see yourself as somebody that can be impactful and create change in your life. So that's really difficult. So fighting off boredom is a proactive way to manage depressive symptoms, to manage that sense of sliding into that sense of emptiness, triggering that sense of core content of emptiness. Other components include, right, breaking those patterns and routines if it's really boring. Habits, patterns, and routines, right? They can make you feel safe, but at the same time, they can cause you to feel bored and locked into the same old life. Okay, and being in the same old life, I've heard a lot of my clients say, well, then that means I have the same old problems and I'm stuck with the same old people. But so breaking some of those patterns and routines, adding something that's novel and new to your life. If it can be something as small as, if you used to go this route to work, go to another route. If you go to one gym, maybe they have another location, another part of town, maybe another 5-minute drive, but go, you'll see different faces, you'll meet different people, you'll see different things. So breaking up that schedule. So it's good to do that. Routine is good too. It can be that repetitiveness can be very healthy in a lot of cases as well. But what we're talking about here is boredom, and that boredom, right, that those patterns and routines that are done over and over again can really add to that. So if you need to make some changes, they don't have to be great big changes. You don't have to move to another part of the world or another country or another house. You can just change some patterns, which may add some novelty to your life as well. And don't just pick one of these things that I'm talking about. You can pick 2 or 3 and try 2 or 3 to add some variety to your life as well. And try saying yes to something new, something that maybe you were initially afraid of. As long as it's not self-destructive or destructive to others, saying yes to something, maybe trying a new yoga class, trying a language class, trying whatever it may be. Saying yes to more new experiences can also lessen boredom as well. And also expanding your social circle with healthy others. Now, what happens is a lot of folks with BPD, and I've talked about this in past videos as well, is that we build up this interpersonal circle, right, that supports and feeds the personality disorder, and this one we're talking about BPD, that BPD pattern and perspective of life. So we fill up this interpersonal circle with people that validate that sense of emptiness that you have, that sense of doubt that you have, that sense of brokenness that you have, whatever it is. So sometimes expanding your social circle can give you other opportunities. And it's scary and it's hard, and I certainly understand that. But not only does it expand the probability of you engaging in more adaptive behaviors when there's more healthy others, but it decreases that tendency for boredom, which can trigger that sense of emptiness as well. Now, lastly, you want to resist shame about feeling empty. Everyone has those feelings from time to time. There is nothing unique or special about it. Now, what's important in hearing that is that those with BPD experience a lot of shame, and they feel that very often, and that shame can then add to or can be connected to that sense of emptiness. And it's important to recognize that if you feel empty, it's nothing that you're doing, it's nothing that you're causing. It's a part of that BPD, which may be from your past, which may be about a relationship that you're in at the moment. But it's important to recognize that sense of shame, don't validate that sense of shame. That if that's where you are with that sense of emptiness, recognize it, recognize that it's part of your core content, and then say, when I feel empty, I do what? And that is typically a maladaptive pattern. Replace it with some of those things that we just talked about on how to defeat boredom. Creating SMART goals, right? Using that perspective, whatever it may be, but trying to separate that sense of shame from emptiness. And everybody experiences that sense of emptiness. And there's nothing wrong with it. It's just what it is. It's just a part of that core content and something that you may have to contend with. But you can contend with it. I've worked with a lot of clients that have built up their sense of purpose, that have filled in that hole of emptiness, that have taken themselves to new heights they never thought that they would achieve, and gone and done things that they never thought they'd be able to do. And if they can do it, you can do it. And it is so, so very true. So please try some of these activities. I wish you all the best. And thank you for watching. Like, share, and subscribe. And leave any comments. Thanks a lot. And please take care. Bye-bye.